Okay, so good morning, everyone. So, as part of today's lecture, we'll continue forward from where we left off last time. And what we did last time was just to give a quick recap, was more of understanding how to delete data, or like just to go from the chronological order. We started was like how do we create tables, and then after creating tables, we learned about like inserting tables, like inserting data into table. Then we moved to deleting the data from the table, and that deletion was like either one row or like a complete table or data. But the key important thing which we learned here is like if we execute delete statement, it is not going to delete the structure of the table. Even though if we delete all the rows from the student table, it is not going to delete the table structure, so the structure is going to be present. But the other way what we found was about drop table, like where after dropping a table, the complete structure of the table gets erased. That means data inside the table as well as the table completely gets erased, and we will not be able to find the certain table which we delete. And lastly was more about like dropping database, where we understood like on a high level we have a database, and inside a database we have one or many tables, and inside any table we have is like data, the one which we are seeing on the back. So database is like a parent object. Like if you delete a database itself, then we cannot retrieve its internal components like table. And since the table is also dropped, we cannot access columns and data in it. And the last thing was like how we understood like to create a database. Now it is more in the lines of how we create a table, or not in the table, but creating or like deleting the structure, like because it doesn't need any kind of input parameters which we give in table creation. And then lastly we learned something about like comments also, like how do we provide comments within SQL, which is like an optional thing, not like a major thing, but good to know. Now moving forward, as of today's topic, uh, what we'll be doing is joins in SQL. Now what are these joins basically? So joins are basically like if there are one or more tables in our database, for example, like these two tables, which is like a student table and then address table. And if you want to retrieve information from first table as well as second table together, how do we do that? So just an example, right? Like I need to find out all the students who are staying in city Mumbai. So how can I pull out all the students who are staying in Mumbai? So since my first table contains only name information and second table contains only address information. So now from both of these tables, we cannot answer our question, right? Like because looking at these two tables, we know like, okay, this student number one is staying in city one, which is Mumbai. And that's what the question is. But how can we retrieve the data? Now, in order to retrieve, what we learned is select statement. So what we can do is select star from student, and if you execute, it is just going to give us data from the student table. And if we do select star from address table, it is going to give us only address information. But together, how can we show information here in the output? Like in a single row, like any a single row which we can consider, where we will have first name, then the city name, so that in one query itself, rather than executing these two queries and looking individually into the data manually, we need to formulate a query which can look data from both of this table and give an output. So for that scenario, we utilize joins in SQL. Now this join is nothing but joining these two tables together. Joining of these two tables together is pretty much easy, but just to give a definition, what are these joins is if we have one or more tables like this, then one or more tables, then we can be they can be joined to retrieve the data from the results. So now the definition is little bit confusing or like not understanding. That is totally fine because we haven't looked into the examples yet, like how this join looks like how we are going to perform. Because once we know how to perform, then we can go back into the definition and see like what the definition means exactly. So basically, this joins is one of the important concept in SQL, and it's been widely used for every query because in real world scenario, the data is not stored in only one table, but it is stored across multiple tables like these. So we need to use joins on a daily basis for most of the queries which we write. So to start with joins, now we just got to know is definition. Now after definition comes is what are the types of joins provided in SQL. So the first type of join is called as inner join. Inner join. Then second type of join is called as left join. Then third type of join is called as right join. And last type of join is called as something like self join. Self spelling doesn't need T. Okay. And one more type of join is called as the last one is called as full join or full outer join. So basically there are five type of joins. Now the important ones are just these three, and if you understand these three, then the next two are using these first three. So the key thing is just to understand first three things. So now to start with inner join. So what is inner join exactly? So inner join is basically if you perform inner join on these two tables, then we are going to get result something like this, not like this, but something like combination of data from first table as well as second table, which are similar in nature or which are retrieved based on a given condition. So just to give a definition, it gives the result by joining tables when there is a match on given condition. Now this definition also will look more like what is this exactly definition, and once we got to know the example, then we can go back to the definition and see like what does this definition mean exactly. So inner join, right? Now let's take an example like a question which we need to solve, and based on that question we can understand what is inner join. So example we can write is uh, find out the same example which I talked about, find out or give the students who are from city Mumbai. So this is the question like give the students who are from city Mumbai. Now before solving this question, what we know is we have two tables, which are these two tables. So the first two table is student table, which is this one, and second table is called as address table, which is this one. And both of these table hold the information which is showing here. So if I run this query, you'll see the student information. There are three students, 1, 2, 3. The IDs are 1, 2, 3, and address table has IDs 1, 2, and 4. So here 3 is missing, and I will let you know afterwards why the reason of 3 is missing. 1, 2, and 4. So ID number 3 is missing. So if you see, these two tables are same. Now looking at these two tables, what we saw is this city Mumbai and this first student, their IDs are common. So that's what we're talking about is like if you want to join this first table with second table, we will have to join any number of tables. And in order to join these two tables, we will have to utilize a common column. Now a common column between these two tables is ID because IDs are present 1, 2, 3. And then here also we have ID, which is 1, 2, and 4. And looking at this, we see ID number one student and ID number one city are the one which we need. Like student number one is staying in city Mumbai. And how do we know that is based on this ID column and they are same. So that is what inner join says like it gives the result by joining tables when there is a match on given condition. Now if we join these two tables on column ID, then the match is going to happen on 1 and 2 and 3 will not happen because 3 is not present here, right? So the data is going to be only from 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 will be excluded. So that way we'll get two students who are staying in first number student is staying in Mumbai and second one in Delhi. And then we will apply a where condition there with the city equal to Mumbai so that we'll retrieve only the first student. Now, that was just a brief explanation. I'll write the query so that you will understand how that works. So ignore the first two select statements. Now we want like students. So what we'll write is select star from students. This is the table who stays in city Mumbai. Now city is present in address table. So for that I'll use inner join now. Inner join address on. Now since these two table names are big, let's say student dot what is the column name we want to give. The common column between these two tables is id, so student dot id equal to address dot id. So this is the query which is gonna give us the results, the partial results. Like if I execute, you'll see id as blob whatever it is. Okay, so first name you'll see Ajay, Rohan, and these two IDs are matching because 1 and 2 are present in both of these two tables. And how they're present is based on this join condition. I'm joining student table with address table on this matching column. And now this matching column is equal to, which is the condition I'm giving. That's where it is matching. So what it's doing is it's taking this first row from student table and trying to see if ID number one is present in this second table. Yes, it is present. So if it is present, then this first row is combined with this first row of second table. That's where we are getting is first name and city as part of the output. Now, since IDs are common, it is throwing out like some blob information. Now, what we will do is we'll just provide the columns which we need, like student dot id comma student dot name first name comma address dot city. So these are the three things I need for my output which will give me the answer. So if I run this, you will see ID is 1 and 2. And why these two IDs are coming up is based on this condition. And this condition is because it is matching ID number 1 and 2 are present in both the tables. That's why it is doing a join. Now it doesn't solve the complete question because what we wanted was give the student who are from city equal to Mumbai. Now based on this query, we got his data, but we got the data for both students where city is Mumbai and city is Delhi. Now in order to get only the data from Mumbai city, what we'll do is we will provide a where condition as we provide in any other select query. Now here we'll write where Now, where is the city column present? City column is present in address table. So what we'll write is address.city equal to Mumbai. And if I run it, I will see the first row, which is gonna answer my question. So this is the student which is staying in city Mumbai. So if you see, the data first name is coming from student table and city column is coming from address table and ID column is also coming either from student table or address table. So this ID column, since being present in both the tables, we have asked like to get the ID column from student table because we don't want to show two ID columns, but only one ID column. And that's how using the inner join, these two tables are joined together on the common column. And when we are providing the common column, it is matching the internal data. So here it took the first row and it's trying to check in my second table, is that ID number one present or not? And the reason of doing this check is because of this on condition. Student inner join on address on student.id equal to address.id. So here, since equal to check is given, that's why we're checking if ID equal to 1 is present in address.id. So if that these two values are equal, then only it is going to retrieve the data in our output. So that's why 1 and 2 are matching after we join these two tables, because ID 1 and 2 are present in both tables, but 3 and 4 are not present in both tables. So that's the reason. And once we got the output, then we just filtered out the rows based on the city, which was for Mumbai, by providing the where condition. So this is how we can join the two tables based on common column. Now, if I go back to the definition of inner join, it gives me the result by joining tables when there is a match on given condition. Now, this is the important thing is I will get the data only if there is a match on given condition. And what was my condition? Condition was this. And the condition was like trying to check the IDs between the two table. And when there is a match, ID equal to 1 is matching with ID equal to 1 in second table. That's why we found a match and that's why we got the result here. So coming back here, so the syntax, if you look for inner join is syntax is select star from your table 1 inner join table 2 on table 1 dot column equal to table 2 dot column. And here the column is the common column between two tables. And then where condition which we wrote is an optional, because since we wanted to find the result, we got the result only for Mumbai. So the answer of this one is this query. Now, if you look at this query here, you'll see student dot id, then student dot first name address dot city is being used, as well as address dot city. Like we have to provide a complete table names before the column, and this is becoming lengthier process. Like it is going to take some time to write these big queries. The thing SQL provides is called as alias, which is like a variable name for this tables. So if my student tables alias, like a shorter form can be like a small s. So I can provide a small s like an object variable name for this student, as well as for address, I can give, let's say, A. So these are user defined variables. I can give anything what I want. And instead of providing the complete name here, like student.id, I can provide is a variable name. So what happens is s.id, comma, s dot first name, comma, a dot city, then here again S, A, and A. So this way I'm reducing the content which we want and it's easier for us to understand. So what I did is I just gave a variable name for every table in the select query from S, and how I did it is I just provided a variable name after the table name, and inner join after my table name for address, I'm again giving a variable called as A, and then join on here it should be s.id equal to a.id, where a.city equal to Mumbai. If I run, I will get the same result itself. So this reduces the content of a query and the query becomes smaller for us to understand. So this is how we can answer the questions if you want to retrieve data from two tables at a time. Now, same way, this completes this inner join. So this is how the inner join works, and it's easy to understand, like nothing difficult here. It's just like the names are new, but what it is doing is taking data from two tables and giving us the result. Now moving forward after inner join is called as left join. So what is this left join exactly? Now we got to know what are joins, which is joining two tables. Now since type of left join is also going to be, it needs two tables at a time, minimum two tables at a time. And what it is going to do is in left join, it is going to take all the columns into the consideration as well as rows into the consideration, the first table which we give, and then it will try to match the corresponding columns in the right hand side table. So once we write an example, then we will understand. So just to go back for example of left join, what it says is it gives all records from left table and records from right table based on match condition. Now again, match condition is gonna be same way, but the output data which we'll be seeing is something different. We'll come back to the definition, but let's jump into an example to understand how to utilize left join. So question can be, let's say, what was the question? Give the students who are from city equal to Mumbai. Okay. So what we can say is give the students who don't have city information available. So now what does this question say is give the students who do not have city information available. Now looking at these two tables again, what we see is first student has city information present. Second student also has city information present. But third student, you don't see a record for ID equal to 3 in address table, right? So that's why we can say like, okay, the student number 3 don't have city information present. So this is how utilizing left join, we can answer this question. Like if there is a absent data for a certain row in the second table, then we can find that information using left join. Now, how can we do that? So the query is going to be the same. Now, instead of inner join, what we'll do is left join. And this where condition will go off because it was specific to the first question. Now, if I say do a left join of my first table to my second table, you will see the data. So the data which you see here is all the rows from my first student table, which is row number 1, 2, and 3. That's why you are seeing all the rows from your first table of the left hand side, and only the rows from your right hand side table will be displayed wherever there is a match. Now match was found on ID number 1 and ID number 2. You'll see there is a match in both of these two tables. That's why you are seeing city information displayed over here, which is Mumbai and Delhi. But for student number 3, since there is no information present in this address table, we are seeing is something called as null keyword. Now null keyword means it is empty or absent data, and that's why we are seeing it is null. Now if you perform the left join on these two tables, this is how the data is going to look every time. And the join condition is again on the common column between these two tables. So if we go back to our question now, give the student who do not have city information available. Now after performing left join, what we see is ID number 1 and 2, which is Ajay and Rohan, they have city information available. But ID number 3, student, doesn't have information present. So that's where we can answer the question like ID number 3, which is student 3, has city equal to null, means they don't have information. Now just to pick only the row number 3, we need to provide is where condition. And here we need to write is where city column should be equal to null, right? City is null. And where is the city coming from? City is coming from keyword A, which is address table. So if I do this, you will see only row number 3. This is how we can answer that student number 3 is city information not available. So that's how we can solve the question. Now, if you look at these two things, the first query and second query, what you see is if I just remove this condition which I gave and I just purely see what is the output of left join, the data after doing the left join, if you see the first two rows which we got where the data is present from both the table is nothing but output of your inner join. So inner join was giving us only the first two rows, and that's how left join also works in the same lines. That left join is nothing but inner join data plus whatever data which is missing from the left hand side table. So just to give you example again, if I replace this left with inner and run it, you will see is only the first two rows, 1 and 2. But left join, if I do, it is going to give me all the rows from the left hand side table. And since all the rows from left hand side table are there, the first two rows are nothing but inner join because the match was happening on these keys. And wherever there is no match, we are getting null. That's how we can keep a track of every student from the both tables. And in order to answer our question, we just provided this condition of a.city is null. Now here we cannot provide equal to like a.ct equal to null because SQL doesn't understand equal to operation for null. It just understands is null so that we can get the data. So again, to go back to explain what does this left join do is it is going to join these two tables, and during the join it is going to display all the columns from your left hand side table. Now left hand side table is student, so all the rows from your left hand side table would be displayed, and wherever there is a match it is going to display that. So that's why we were getting 1 and 2, and wherever there is no match it is going to give us a null record like this. Now null is nothing but a empty string, because empty, or if you go into Python, it was called as none, N-O-N-E. Similar to that none, which is like empty data, in SQL, we say it is called as null. And null is nothing but like data is not present. And then to answer our question, we just gave this where condition so that we can provide all the students who don't have city information present. And that's where we got the answer. Now, if you look at this query again and the syntax, it is going to be the same as inner join. So syntax is going to be same thing. Let me copy the example here. So syntax can be the same one. Only change is instead of inner keyword, we are going to replace it with left keyword. So select star from table when table one, left join table two on table one dot column equal to table two dot column. And the example which we solved was give all the students who do not have city information available. Now we just did is purely a left join on these two tables. And after looking at the data, we just provided a condition which can answer our question. So this is how left join works. Now, if you understood these two things, left join and inner join, other all the joins are going to be similar to this. The only difference is going to be how the data is displayed. Now, same way, if we move forward to the right join, what right join is going to do is it is going to give all the records from right hand side table instead of left hand side table now. So left join was doing was it used to give records from left table and records from right table based on match. Here we'll get is records from right table and records from left table based on condition. Now again, don't worry about the definition. Once we take one more example now, you'll understand how that right hand side join works. So example can be give the students or give the cities where student information is not present. So what the question is asking is give the cities where student information is not present. Now if we go back to our source table again, here you'll see give all the cities whose student information is not present. So if we say one, student information is present, two, student information is present, four, here we don't have a ID called as 4 in student information, right? So that way we can select from city number 4, there are no students present, which means there are no students from city called as Pune. So that's how we can answer the question. Now, if you see right join, it is nothing but a reverse or like a mirror of left join, where left join was saying was it will take data all from left hand side in the output and give the output as it is, and wherever there is a present or not present, or wherever there is absent data, it is going to give us null. For right hand side, we'll do is same way. And here my data from right hand side table is going to be displayed completely, and data from left hand side is going to be null wherever there is a absent data. So if I run this, you'll see. So now if you see a dot city is coming from address column, and that's why we are displaying all the data, like all the rows from my address column, Mumbai, Delhi, Pune, which is three cities. And that is how right join works, right? Like as it says, all the data from right hand side table will be displayed. And from the left hand side, based on this condition, if there is a match, which is 1 and 2. Now, why there is a match on 1 and 2 is because ID number 1 and 2 are present in both tables. So if you take right hand side data, this ID 1 and 2 is present here, 1 and 2. So that's why we are seeing the information. But for city number 4, there is no ID called as 4 in student table. Since there is no information, we are seeing corresponding column contains null here, which is null and Pune. So this way we can answer here is from city Pune, there are no students available. So what we need to provide is just a where condition where ID is null. Now if we do this, we'll get only this first Pune row. So we can tell like from city Pune, there are no students available. Ambiguous column. Okay, so it is because A dot S dot ID because we are taking S dot ID. So this way we can answer the question of right join, like give the cities where student information is not present, and student information is not present means it is null for city Pune. So we can tell like from city Pune, all the student information is not available. So that is how we can answer the question. And to go in more depth, right join is a mirror image of left join. Like what left join used to say is whatever data from my left hand side table is going to come, and on right hand side data it is going to perform the calculation based on this condition. But for right hand side, it is taking all the data from right hand side table, and from the left hand side table it is going to perform the calculation on the column and give me the null or not null values. So syntax for this one is again going to be the same, and the keyword is going to be, instead of left join, it is going to be right join. And example is trying to find information from my left hand side table which doesn't exist in right hand side table. And that's how we solve this question. Now we will move to self join. Now self join is equivalent to first join, which was inner join. Now how it is equivalent is I will tell you the reason. So now what does self join does is it gives the result by the same table joining the table with itself, and the result would be the result would be based on match condition, which is any given match condition like this. Now as we looked initially, what we used was inner join, right? And when we did an inner join, it gave data from both the tables which are present. Now what we are saying is self join. Self join is going to work only on a single table. So in inner join, here you saw there are two different tables, student table and address table are different. But if you want to join same table with itself, you will use this self join. Instead of this, you'll use self join, and instead of address A, we need to provide is again the same table. which is student table. So that is how a self join works. Is it works only on a single table, and that single table is present on left as well as right side of it, so that you can answer any question from that single table itself. So that is how it works. So if I run this same as it is, you will see the output. Student has incorrect syntax near self. So because of this SQL thing, this self keyword is not acceptable in this software MS SQL. So the shorter form is join. Invalid column city because city is not present in S table. So that is how we get. So self join is basically going to give data from the same table itself. Now here I'm using table called as student. So that's why the data I'm getting is going to give data from the student table itself. So what I can say is, let's say, um, example, right? Find students from find students whose name equal to, let's say, Ajay. So how can we find out all the students using join whose name equal to Ajay? So that's how we can do it. Select star from student, which is s.id, comma, s.first name from student table. Join it with itself on the common column. Now, since the common column for both the table on left and right side is ID, we will display the output as it is. And then here we can give where e or like s dot first name equal to Ajay. So we can get the output as it is. So looking at this self join, what we understand is it is used to answer any questions if the required data is present in only one table. And that's why we can use self join. And since for previous two questions or three questions, the data was present across both the table for the question, that's why we utilize inner join, left join, and right join. And that is the only difference. Now, this is one of the way of answering this question. Find student whose name equal to Ajay. Using the join, how can we do that? But the other way is instead of writing a join, we can remove this and we can just put a star and select star from student as the first name equal to Ajay. Will also answer it. So this is what we learned during the initial sessions of SQL. Because the data is present in the same table, we can straightforward use a select query. But if you want to use a join to answer the question, then we can utilize this example of self join. So the difference here, what we see between a self join and inner join is self join works only on a single table and inner join works also same like self join, but the difference is it needs two different tables, table 1 and table 2 are required. But for self join, only one table is required, which is only table 1 or table 2. Okay, so that is how self join works. Now the last type of join for today's session is a full outer join. So full outer join is again based on the previous two joins which we learned, which is left join, right join, and inner join. So these are the three joins which will help us answer the full outer join. So it is nothing but a combination of left join and right join. So this is what a full outer join is. So if we know left join and right join, then we can perform a full outer join. The only difference is the output which we'll see as part of this full outer join is going to be combination of left join and right join. So let's say example for this one, right? So before even going into example, let's take this same query and I'll paste it here. We will remove this, not this query. This query is easy for us. So I'll just tell you how the full outer join works and then we'll jump into the example. So it is nothing but instead of right join, I'll write full outer join. Now let me check if this full keyword is acceptable in this MS SQL software. Yeah, it is acceptable. Okay. So if you perform full outer join on these two tables, what you see is combination of output, which is nothing but combination of left join plus right join. So if you recollect again, the first three rows which we saw were the output of left join. So if you run the same query as it is, you will get the data for first three rows. These first three rows will be the output of your left join. And the last row is the output of your right hand side join, which came from this query. And if you consolidate the data together, it is going to be a full outer join. So if you just want to output utilizing both joins at a time, we can use this full outer join like this. Now it can answer us multiple questions at a time. So one of the question can be answered is, tell me the students who don't have city information like this. So looking at this, we can say student number 3 don't have city information present. And again, in addition to that question, we can say including that, tell me the city also who don't have any student information present. So utilizing this, what we can say is these are the two rows which don't have any information present in terms of name or city. So let me tell you the example. Provide, or what was the question? Find students who do not have city information present and also find students who do not have student information present. So based on this example, what you see is it is a combination of left and right join. Now this query is giving us a partial answer. Now our answer is nothing but the last two rows. Now just to get the last two rows, how we can get is let's solve the first question only, like find the student who do not have city information present, which means row number 3, right, where city information is not present. So what I can write here is where condition where a dot city is null. So this is going to answer my first question. And then for second question, what I need to find is find the student who do not have student information available. So here I can write and s dot id is null. Now if I execute it, you will see instead of and it is or actually. If I execute it, you will see all both questions answered in the same query, which is more easier for us to uh, showcase to everyone like these are the two questions which are answered. So this is how a full outer join works. So I think that way we completed all the joins. Now just let me know if you have any questions.
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
Okay. So if there are no questions, that completes all joins within SQL. Now as part of next session, we will do some more additional operations which are provided by SQL. And after that, we will go through some programming exercise to answer similar kind of questions based on tables which we have. And in order to answer those questions, we will utilize all the concepts which we learned from the start, right from select statements to joins, as well as using those aggregate functions which we'll learn in the next sessions. So since we are good for now, we'll end the session and we'll continue tomorrow maybe, or like we'll connect with ma'am and get to know like where we'll have when we will have the next lecture. All right. Thank you both of you. We'll see
thank
you
you, sir.
next session. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir.
Thanks. Bye.